Teresa, good morning. Thank you so much for being here today with me. And how's everything in your world?
Good morning. Good morning. And thank you for having me. And my world is doing really good. We're not freezing. There's no snow. There's no ice. We're good.
Where are you calling in from?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Cincinnati. Oh, your town was just in the highlight of the focus of the world and the football world with beloved Damar Hamlin. Oh my gosh.
And what great examples of kindness came out of that. I've never been so proud to be in a city than I was that day.
I mean, just his GoFundMe page alone that he created, he wanted $2,500 for this little, it was like a center. Let's get some gifts to the kids. And I think, we're recording this a month before it actually will be released. So, it's over $8 million.
Yes.
And that I've just been so proud of how humanity has come together. I was so proud because originally the NFL said we're going to start playing 5 minutes, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching this and I'm going, no. You cannot these are human beings here. They're not these tough football players. They're human beings, and we need to treat them as such, and you need to give them time, because most football players are carted off and they give a thumbs up and they're like, I'm okay. This was not the case.
No.
And I was so proud of the NFL that they recognized humanity for what it is, and they did the right thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the Bengals were already on board long before the NFL. They said, we don't want to play either.
No,
we can't. We're worried about him. And I had friends in the stands who said, we were sitting next to Buffalo Bill fans. And, a minute ago, we were talking smack and just, kind of being competitive. But right after that happened, oh gosh, we're so sorry for your player. What can we do? What are we going to do? We'll help, and they are like hand in hand walking out of the stadium, standing outside the hospital, and they held 2 or 3 vigils down there. And I'm not talking in one spot, because I actually drove down there, and they had like the entire hospital surrounded with flowers and warm wishes, and we're praying for you, and candlelight vigils. It went on and on. And it was amazing and a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing to see.
And I tell you what, that really demonstrates how, if people can come together and everybody has that healing, kind energy behind something, call it it's the power of prayer. It's, this isn't a religious thing. This is a humanity thing.
Exactly.
1,000%. And how, now granted, we don't know, maybe it was a medical miracle. Maybe he was never, whatever his time, he still has a lot of work to do on this earth. Obviously. And thank goodness for that he's still with us, and he's going to be fine. And he was released from the hospital. And, but it really demonstrates the power of the energy that we put behind our thoughts and what we put out in the world. Miracles can happen.
The energy we put between our thoughts, between our prayers, when we come together united, how much that really does spread that ripple of kindness, that ripple throughout the community. And it obviously spread across the United States, because he has $8 million in his GoFundMe page for those children. And you can't have a better example.
Right. Exactly. So you are a motivational speaker, a kindness ambassador, which I love. And we're going to dive into that, for loving parents who want to raise kind children. And you say in your bio, today's parents can see how some troubled teens are turning to devastating acts of violence because they see no other way. Consequently, parents want to make sure they are doing everything in their power to raise healthy, happy, and kind children.
Yes.
What a beautiful mission. I'm right there with you. I have a 22-year-old who is a senior in college, and it warms, and I did it all by myself. Like, I raised him alone. And well, I mean, he had other people. His father was just not present. He was able to talk. His father was in prison. Most people know my story, and they know that my ex-husband was in prison for 7 years. And so he had that support there. But there was a few years that went by that he didn't want anything to do with his father. The point is that I raised a very compassionate, kind, gentle young man who is showing up in the world in ways that I'm just so proud of that. And yet we see so many examples of children who lose their way at a very young age. I mean, just a couple of days ago, and I'm not trying to bring people down, I'm just using this as an example.
Yes.
A 6-year-old brought a gun to school and shot his teacher. That's not his fault, because a 6-year-old has no idea what he's doing with a weapon. He has no idea. Where were his parents? Why wasn't his parents checking his backpack? I mean, it starts in the home, and the parents have to take responsibility for our children, because right now in 2023, the United States is scoring lower on every scale. I mean, 40% of high school students cannot read at a 5th grade level. If you can't read at a 5th grade level, how are you going to be a productive member of society? How do you even know to better yourself? How do you even know to look at yourself and say, I can do bigger and better things with my life and be a contributing member to society and change the way, because right now the United States is on a trajectory that it's really devastating to sit back and watch, because we are going downhill faster at a rate that is so fast.
Yes. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
Why I started this was from another school shooting. And I started out speaking to the children. And then during COVID, when we're all on social media during COVID, that was everyone's lifeline. And I was appalled by some of these comments that were coming from adults. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we got to start talking to them, because their kids see it. Their kids, and I don't want to put a lot of stuff on parents. They're stressed out as it is, but they see what you put on social media. They watch you. They're sitting in the back seats or next to you in the car, watching you when you're in your road rage moment. They watch you, how you treat your neighbors. They watch you if they go to the grocery store with you. They're watching your actions. And the younger they are, the more they're apt to mimic exactly what you're doing. So why not be the CEO and say, okay, look yourself in the mirror. What philosophy, what values do I want my family to have? And as the CEO, you filter that down into your family. And that's how it all starts. But it does start with the adults, with the parents. And I always try to say, let's work it in and make it as natural as breathing, so that it's just automatic. And you start with your little habits of holding the door, please and thank you, those kind of things. And then you build on it.
Yeah, for sure. I read something when my son was little, because I was told I would never have children. So I have resigned myself to that. And then he was my miracle baby. And I'm so grateful that I was blessed with that. And so I was in my mid-30s. Even though I took care of my little brother growing up, I still didn't remember. I didn't have a lot of knowledge of how to raise a child. I mean, we're not given an instruction manual. So because I'm such a self-help junkie, I was reading a lot. I read some good stuff. I read some stuff that I wish I hadn't read, because I remember I read, you want to give them choices. So I would give them choices. Do you want this or do you want that? And it seemed like a really great idea at the time, but all I did was create this child who is a master negotiator. And while that is going to serve him well in life, because he's got negotiation skills like nobody's business, it was horrible as a mom because I became the short order chef. It was like, no, and like, no, so but I remember reading something or hearing something that was like, and I don't remember the exact quote. It was brilliant. I'll paraphrase it as best I can. It was something like, your kid, there's your kitty cat walking across the screen.
He is just popping in to remind everybody to be kind to animals, that it's important.
There you go. Beautiful cat. Beautiful. But it was something to the effect of, your children will be watching you. Even when you don't think they're going to be watching you, they're going to be watching you. And I remember this always sticks out because it was so simple, but yet a really profound example of how they mimic you. And apparently when I would talk on the phone, I would walk around. And I was walking around because as I was having a conversation, I'm picking up stuff, I'm doing the dishes. So I'm just walking around doing things. I wasn't just aimlessly walking around. At the time, he was probably 2 years old. He picked up something and pretended it was a phone, or maybe he probably had like a brush in his hand, and he's just walking around talking and just and he's just walking around pretending he's me talking on the phone. And I thought, wow. Now, to this day, my son still walks around and talks on the phone.
I do it too. And I'm sure my kids probably do it. I'll have to watch them now. But I did this, I think we all do that, especially when you're a single parent, you're multitasking. I was a single parent as well of two sons. And so, yeah, you're multitasking. You're always doing this and that, but your kids, you've got to remember your children are watching you.
They are watching you. They are watching you. So you mentioned briefly that it was a school shooting. So tell us the backstory of how you got into this and how this became your mission.
This is really odd. It was back, 2018, Parkland, Florida. They had that school shooting. And I don't know, by that point, there had been many school shootings before that and after that. So I'm not exactly sure what brought that one, but I actually sat down and wrote a letter, and I entitled it Dear Students. And I just sympathized with them and grieved with them, and then thought, there's got to be a way we can make it better. And did you ever think about sitting down at the lunch table with that kid that's always alone? Did you ever think about if somebody drops their books or their pencils, helping them pick them up? And then, they're spread all over the hallway and help them, help that. So that's kind of how it started. And like I said, I did start talking to the students and then realized it's really got to start with the parents. They have to be the CEO. They have to be the example. And they have to, and parents actually have to stop. What do you value? Ask themselves, hey, what do I value? What philosophy do I want my children to carry through their lifetime? And that might, it's going to be a little different for everybody, but do you want kind, compassionate kids? And kind, compassionate kids change the world and make it a better place. And when I was actually talking, and I use my own nieces and nephews quite frequently for questions because they all have younger children, and they said, we just want our kids to be happy. And I said, go beyond that. What else do you want? We want, and then, through lengthy conversations, we want them to change the world. We want them to make others happy. We want them, and you do that through kindness and compassion. So that's how this has all evolved and come about. And I told you I started a new series, or I'm starting a new series this year. I started by telling parents to just make it a habit. And I said, and if it helps with sticky notes, and I actually even came up with a journal to help them write down their acts of kindness or what they want to do to help them make it that habit, make it as natural as breathing, but just the simple things. Holding the door, please and thank you, because I don't know about you, please and thank you has seemed to have disappeared in a lot of ways. And those are the simple things parents can build through their lives, easy peasy. How many of your listeners take their kids to the grocery store with them.
Right.
When you're walking from your car to the door, how many carts do you see in empty parking spaces? Collect the carts. You're already walking. You're not really adding much to, it's not costing you anything, and you're not adding a lot of time to your day, and your kids are watching, and get them to help you.
Oh, and they'll have fun with it.
And have a lot of fun with it. My kids were older, so I said, okay, whoever gets the most grocery carts at the front and meets me at the door, you get to pick out whatever you want in the grocery store or something like that. Anyway, regardless, they all got something. But that's for older kids because you don't want them to get hit by the car in the parking lot. Keep that in mind. Keep age appropriate. But just those little things, letting someone in front of you in line. One of my favorite things I witnessed is the grocery store, because I use that a lot because most people go to the grocery store. You know, those lovely plastic produce bags. We all hate them. No one can get them open. This poor woman had a toddler in her grocery cart crying. Oh, we've all been there. We've all been there. And she's just, you can tell she's frustrated and she can't get the bag open. And before I could get there, another gentleman had come up, opened it, and handed it back to her. Her face. You'd have thought he handed her a gold bar. Yeah. She was so relieved. You just see the weight lifted off just by opening a plastic bag.
Yeah.
That's those things. It didn't cost anything and it didn't take a lot of time. So that's when I say making it as natural as breathing, those are the building blocks, because then it just becomes a habit. And I noticed through my own journey, now I'm looking, where else can I be kind to somebody? And I see so many examples now that, it is. It's just natural as breathing. It becomes a lifestyle. And I want to share that with everyone and the parents. And I'm not trying to add a ton on their plate to stress them out more. You just weave it in to your day.
Well, and I also want to really make a point of no one's making any parent wrong for what they're not doing.
Exactly.
Everybody has different situations. We all have stuff that's going on in our lives. So please, listeners, do not make yourself wrong in any way, shape, or form if you're not doing something, because the last thing we want is to put any more guilt on parents, because we have enough of it, right? We create our own, we are our own worst enemies. I actually interviewed somebody last year about mom guilt. But before that, I was asked to write an article about mom guilt. And I started researching it and I was like, oh, this is a thing. Here at that point, my son was 21 years old. I just thought it was me. I just thought there was something wrong, and I'm using air quotes, wrong with me, because I felt so guilty about so many things. It's a real thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was like, here I went 21 years of this mom guilt, carrying it around, not realizing that I was not alone. Like, this is a real thing. So we're not trying to make anybody feel wrong or feel guilty. It's just whatever you've done in the past, accept it, put it behind you. Today's a new day. Today's a new day to start making changes. Today's a new day to start implementing new things into your routine, into your mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure that we made that point, because I certainly
don't want anyone to feel guilty. Like I said, I don't want to add any stress to anyone either.
Of course not. But it does. It starts with us anyway, whether you have children or you don't have children. It starts with us. And it starts with us, and we can make a difference. Now, you mentioned a couple of times before we started recording, and then after it, road rage. And I use driving situations a lot as well, because we've all been there.
We've all been there.
Somebody cuts you off in traffic, they almost hit you, and your first response is, it's emotional, right? But you have to remember, 1,000% of the time, our first reaction is always going to be emotional. It's normal. It's in your DNA. Don't make yourself wrong for it. It's okay. You're human. It's normal. You're going to get upset. It's scary. And we get angry. But then what do we do with it after that? Right. So let me hear your thoughts and then I'll share my thoughts on it.
Oh my God.
Well.
Yeah. Road rage is huge. And it is where I get the most, when I'm talking about kindness, it's where I get the most reaction from people. One of my solutions or self-help ideas is to take sticky notes and put it where your horn is. And then when you go to and put a big word stop, I wrote stop on mine. And when you go to blow, you'll see that. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. And that stops that emotion. And you're like, okay, deep breath. So start with the sticky note on your horn. If you need to put it elsewhere in your car, I love sticky notes. You need to put it somewhere else in your car where you see it to help you stop that reaction. That's what you need to do. And one of the things I tell people to do is practice the pause. Now, when you're in that moment, especially with road rage, it's hard to practice the pause, but the sticky notes will help you stop. Deep breath, go on. And I know it like we were talking about earlier, it's a journey. And especially with road rage, and I know a friend of mine was driving the other day and somebody, actually we were waiting for a parking spot and she had her directional on. She was there first and the person pulls out and goes on. Somebody comes from the other direction and slips right in there, laughing their head off. They thought they were the funniest thing ever. And my friend was getting angry. So was I. And then I'm thinking in my head, no, I'm supposed to be we're not supposed to be doing this. We're not supposed to be doing this. And we did, thank goodness we did stop and pause and went on. But I said, in that moment, it is difficult. Now I do have another practice the pause, sticky notes. And then I have one of these in my car. And again, the sticky notes help remind you to stop so you can think to do these fun things. Get out your bozo nose. And if someone is yelling at you, thinking you did something wrong, hi, smile and wave. Change it, make it humorous. You're going to shock the other driver. They're going to stop that form of rage going through them and realize 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work with everybody, but realize, okay, this is kind of silly. The world's not coming into an end because I think you cut me off.
Yeah.
And that's, all these little humor tricks, which I do love my nose, and it does work. Or the pastor at my church said, yeah, I wave at him and say, hey, how's your mom? I pretend that I know them. And they wave and smile. And it does that by not reacting to them in the rage way. It is a kind of a shock, which is sad, a shock to them where they will also stop.
Yeah.
And think, wow. So that ripple of kindness is going wrong and then they go on their way. And if you use the notes, they're probably still laughing, going, what a wackadoodle.
Well, and you put a smile on someone's face.
You put a smile on somebody's face and you stop that road rage. Because I have seen road rage. People get off at an exit ramp, 2 men jump out of the car. They are fist fighting, rolling on the ground. I mean, it can escalate. People pull out a gun. Road rage is one of those things that just can escalate so fast. So if you can use humor, use your sticky notes. That'll help de-escalate it.
I love those examples. So for me, what I always think is that, you've got to deal with that emotion because it's real. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And we're going to feel it. It doesn't matter how long you've been on this journey. It doesn't matter. You're going to feel it, right?
Right.
And for me, what I always do is I work on shifting my perception because you don't know what you don't know, right? And you don't know what that other person is going through. And, 9 times out of 10, they just didn't see you. And it happens. Mm-hmm. We do it all the time where we start to change lanes and there's someone in our blind spot and we did not see them. Mm-hmm. And we almost hit them. Right. And it's like, okay, I didn't see them. But you just have to make up another story about the situation.
Right.
And, there's many different scenarios that could be going on for that person. Maybe they're sick and they're trying to get to the hospital. They're trying to get to a bathroom for all we know, right? Maybe they just got a phone call and their children is in the hospital. One of their children is in the hospital, right? By shifting that perception, you're just making up another story because you don't know what happened. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, they just didn't see you. People are not going to deliberately try to damage their car and get themselves into a car accident, on purpose. It's always an accident. And for that person that stole your parking space, you got to just chalk that up as, you know what? They obviously needed it more than we did.
Right. And it wouldn't kill me to walk a few extra feet.
Right. Exactly. And it's, for people that do that, okay, it wasn't the best behavior, but, don't let it ruin your day. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
You just reminded me, I use one of Wayne Dyer's quotes, which is, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Yeah. So, these ideas with the nose or waving and things like that just has totally changed the whole perceptions for you and the other person.
Oh,
and
completely.
That's the same thing, even when you're not in a road rage. And I'm sorry if I'm jumping to another idea for you, but sometimes if you're just walking and someone just starts yelling and they're really upset about something and they're blaming you and they're on. So you're like, again, you have to practice the pause. And this is all part of the journey. You have to just, instead of that reaction that you want, that emotional response is, I didn't do it. What are you talking about? And you start, instead of doing that, let them just deep breath, practice the pause, and then listen to them. Sometimes somebody just needed to vent. And then when they're done, how can I help you? Kind of twist that around a little bit. And 9 times out of 10, they really weren't even mad about what they were yelling about. They were mad at something that happened before they left the house.
Right.
And it just has built. So that's where you just practice the pause, listen, and then when they're done, say, how can I help you? Yeah. Instead of that emotional reaction like we were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people, sometimes you just need to get it off your chest.
Mm-hmm. Well, and when I can give another example of something similar. I was out to brunch and the server came up and she was just out and out surly. She didn't want to be there. They just called me in here and they told me to take your order. I'm like, oh, geez.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry to bother you, ma'am. Right.
Can I have some coffee? You're just even afraid to place an order. And so I have little kindness quotes. And when I paid the bill, I put that quote in there for her. And as we're walking out the door, we've eaten, everything's gone, we're walking out the door, she's running for me. And she just said, thank you for the note. I needed that.
Oh,
I hope you have a nice day. So whatever, we knew we weren't the problem, but she was really not nice. And, but yeah, just a kind word, a kind note, change that whole perception for her.
Yeah. Well, because many times it's not about us, but we make it about us. And I think that's the underlying thing that people need to really consider, is that in those situations, we're making it about us and it's not about us, right? We just happen to be standing there when the other person is venting or whatever, they're behaving in a way that doesn't serve anybody. Right.
Right.
And it's not about us. And so in those situations, we need to be conscious of that this isn't about me. This is about them. Let them have their space. And I don't need to take that on. I don't need to take on that energy that they're giving out into the world. It's not about me,
Right.
And I'm just here to listen to them, offer them support. And I love that you said that. How can I support you? Because that's one of the best things you can say to somebody.
Yes.
What can I do for you? How can I support you? And showing that kindness is going to, it's like a ripple effect, listeners, for everybody out there. It's a ripple effect. And when you're kind to another person, they're going to be kind to another person. And it's just going to keep taking that effect over and over and over. Oh my gosh.
And there is scientific evidence to back that up.
There
And
is.
there is. And if you and I exchange an act of kindness, your serotonin levels go up and so do mine. And serotonin levels are your happy hormones.
That's
And
right.
so you and I are happy. But the fascinating thing for me is anyone watching it, their serotonin levels also go up and they're happy. So this is, you think it's just two people, but it's actually whoever's watching, and that ripple really does go.
Well, what's really happening, Teresa, in those moments is we're emitting, excuse me, it's the morning and I still have my, yeah, I know. Yes, I smoked 5 packs of cigarettes yesterday because half the time my voice sounds like that. I'm like, no, it's allergies. But what's happening is it's a real thing. And again, science backs this up. When we're putting out this positive vibes, those vibrations, it's real. It's a frequency that we're emitting, and my positive frequency is going to touch other people and their frequency is going to raise as well. So what we're doing is we're raising that energetic vibration that everybody has.
Yes. Yes.
And it's real, people. It's real. This is not like, woo-woo stuff here. This is real. Stanford, Harvard, Yale, all of the big universities. I just mentioned those that are in the United States. There's dozens of universities all over the world that is studying the science of energy and how it's real. It's real stuff, folks.
I'm thinking Cedars-Sinai's, Mayo Clinic. There's a college here in Ohio, Denison University, because the professor reached out to me, did a whole kindness study on what kindness during COVID. There is a Dr. David Hamilton, he's my guru, and he talks about all the health benefits that, we talk about making happy in the serotonin level. He takes it to a whole nother level with it makes your heart better. It does, it reduces your stress level. There's a lot of studies going on, and it's real, people. it's real.
So real. So Teresa, we're almost out of time. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience before we finish up today?
I think a couple hugs. We talk about kindness. Hug your kids. Hugs, hugs, hugs. And I don't know, and I'm kicking myself because I didn't write down this study, but somebody had said 12 hugs, you grow. Is growth for you if you receive 12 hugs a day. If you receive 8 hugs a day, it's maintaining where you're at. And 4 is survival.
Yes.
So I just say, hug your kids. Just hug, hug, hug them. That's the kindest thing you can do.
I love it. Yes. Yes. Hugs are so critical. And thank you for throwing that out there because that is so important.
Mm-hmm. And simple.
And it's so simple. And hug yourself. Give yourself a big hug too, because kindness really starts with us. Mm-hmm. And if you can love yourself and be kind to yourself, you're going to be kind to others. So, Teresa, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such an amazing conversation. And I just wish you the continued success. And thank you for doing what you're doing. The world needs more people like you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was truly my pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening today.